You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, this is Richard Estep, ghostwriter and from TV's Haunted Hospitals, Paranormal Investigators, Haunted Case Files, and Paranormal 911, and you are listening to PSH Radio on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, and this week we are joined by the lovely ladies from Brookes Paranormal. They are a three-person team, but tonight we have Jackie and Linda on, who they'll be on in a minute. Of course, as always, guys, if you have any questions, we do have the chat room open. Carl should maybe on later, but he's having a few issues, so yes. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
How are you doing this evening, ladies?
Great, thanks. Just keeping
all good.
warm.
Good. So, could you tell everybody who you are, guys, ladies?
Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, Jacqueline?
Oh, you go first.
You're too kind. My name's Linda Brookes, and obviously I'm founder of Brookes Paranormal. We've been going since June 2017. However, we have been investigating long before then, going back right to the beginning of 2016. And we basically just have started recently doing events, public events, and taking some of the public out with us on investigations in various locations. So as they get an idea of what it's like being a paranormal investigator for an evening.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Dixon. I met Linda on my travels. I went to a lot of paranormal, like ghost hunt type things. I've been doing paranormal since the second series of Most Haunted. Used to go on my own generally, but I've just bumped into a lot of people. As I said, I bumped into Linda, and then was invited to join the team about last November time. So yeah, it's great. Loving it.
That's great to hear. I think that's how a lot of people get into this, because I know I got into the paranormal watching TV shows, and then I was like, right, I need to go and see what it's all about. And then obviously I met friends through that, and you know how the wheel turns sometimes in this field. Absolutely,
definitely. For me, it was long before sort of like TV shows to do with the paranormal came about. I'd actually was quite in tune with spirit from a very early age, and obviously my experience of the paranormal was very much different to perhaps a few people, where obviously, like you mentioned, the likes of different shows like Most Haunted and recent ones like Paranormal Lockdown and Ghost Adventures. My stance was before that, when I was a young child at the age of 7 when I first experienced paranormal with regards to seeing a full apparition in my own home. And that sort of put me on the journey that I find myself in today, really.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's quite different to what most people, more or less say. Normally it's down to shows that really get the inquisitive side of them wanting to experience it for themselves. But for me, it more or less came to me rather than me going to it, if that makes sense. So it was a bit different and an eye-opener as well, because obviously from my own perspective, I had to get my own head around what I was seeing and experiencing. I'm wondering whether it was just me or whether this was part of a normal sort of situation when you're growing up as a child. It's not something you can bring in a conversation with your friends, as you can imagine. So, you know, a lot of it I didn't really understand until a bit later on when it was like in my teens. And then I could actually speak to my grandmother, who was also a very in tune person with spirit. And I knew through her that I found out, you know, what it was I was experiencing. And it turned out it was something that it seemed to be passed from generation to generation in the women in the family. So, you know, that was something that I found quite unique, because it's, you know, it's not many people actually, you know, you can speak to about that can sort of like be on the same wavelength as yourself, you know. So experiences are quite different to what you actually see on shows, that's for sure.
My experience was totally opposite. I was a complete skeptic. I'd even lived in a haunted pub, and like I was a bit dubious about it all. But then I went on so many events and people actually saw things in the distance. I thought, well, why can't I see it? So in the end, about 3.5, 4 years ago, I started development classes. And yeah, it's been interesting, very interesting journey. I can now sense spirits, and I pick up various things now. It's brilliant. I think everyone can actually learn if they open their mind to it.
Totally agree with you there, Jackie. And obviously going back to Linda, with you saying, obviously your was it your grandma, did you say?
Yes, that's right. It was my grandmother.
Said that because it was passed on from generation to generation by the female side. Well,
yes.
Funnily enough, my mum had it and I've got it.
Oh, wow. So, you know, sort of like where I'm coming from then, Sam.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a lot different to the shows, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. But it's interesting because obviously, you know, you get an experience, you know, that other people would probably long for, albeit, you know, obviously when you've got a gift like that, and obviously, as I say, very early on, I didn't recognise what that gift was or what it meant to have it. But obviously since growing up and getting married, I shut the gift down, well, if you can call it a gift. You know, I didn't really want to be seeing spirits or communicating with them, because I didn't think it was fair to the children I was bringing into the world. You know, I didn't want them being frightened by being around certain things that were happening, or, you know, things that I was seeing. I wasn't sure whether they would see. So in the end, I thought, you know, I made a decision that the time wasn't right for me to continue working that way, and I closed it down. And it was only after I had my children and they're grown up that, you know, things started ticking off again in my house. And I thought, well, now, you know, maybe that's the time now to open that door, and this time open it and not shut it as much as I did do. And since then, that's the way I've left it. So, and I quite like where I am with it now. You know, it's comfortable, because I know that, you know, I'm more knowledgeable about, you know, what it is to actually communicate with spirit. And I'm like Jacqueline as well. I go to development classes as well. You know, we both go together to the same one. And, you know, you're learning every single day. You know, there's never any 2 days are the same. You know, you still learn, you still communicate different ways. And I think that's part and parcel of it. You know, it's all a learning journey, isn't it? So I'm quite enjoying it.
Very interesting. Yeah, I've been told to go to like development classes and that, but I can't find none local to me. So
oh gosh, it is.
So obviously I checked out your website, and on there I saw that you have investigated over 25 locations. Can you name some of them?
Yes, I can. Some of them obviously are Nottingham based, others are a little bit further afield. Nottingham ones, we've had the Salutation Inn, which is quite an old historic pub in the centre of Nottingham. We again have another pub who's not very far from the Nottingham Castle, which is the Yeo trip to Jerusalem. A lot of people have already investigated that. It's one of my favourites as well. And also the Robin Hood experience, which is a lovely little gem of a location. I love going there. Very active as well. You know, it's incredible what we've experienced and what we've documented evidence-wise from that location. So they're three that are based in Nottingham. And then we have obviously further afield ones like the village of Mansfield, Also, we've got some that's coming up on the events, Moira Furnace, which isn't too far, in Swadlincote in Derbyshire. And then we've got some out towards Bakewell. So, we sort of like branch around about from the centre of Nottingham out to the outskirts, so, and beyond.
Yeah, I love Nottingham, so...
I was going to say we have got an interesting one that's coming up as well, which I think it was through the Parasearch Radio that mentioned about doing all the teams doing a charity event for the 18th of May this year. And we're actually doing one. So we're having it at the Old Victorian School in Long Eaton in Nottingham. And that's for a very good cause, for the Brain Tumour Charity, which is based at Nottingham City Hospital. They have a group session at Maggie's Centre, which is obviously down to cancer of the brain, or any other tumour for that matter of the brain. And they have a group session there in the Maggie's Centre. They can only do one day a month, believe it or not. It's not getting any funding from any government or anywhere else. It's a self-funding charity, so obviously every penny counts, and obviously I decided to do something that's local to me, and it's close to my heart as well. So because my father and my sister both had brain tumours, so, and sadly passed because of it, so it's got a massive personal connection for me to be able to put something back to them, because they gave us such a lot of support when we needed it. So we're looking forward to doing that event and raising a lot of good money for the charity.
Yeah, we've actually already been to the Old Victorian School, and we've had a really active night as well. So it will be fantastic to get back there. And it's always interesting in schools as well. You've got a lot of energy, and they've got a lot of different energies. Mm-hmm. So you usually get good activity.
Definitely.
So obviously with investigating schools, do you find that there's not just children there, that there's adults as well?
Definitely. Oh yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we did do an investigation at another school called the Old Edwardian School, and that is the activity there is a very mix of the Old head teacher and the school teachers, along with several of the children as well, and they're all within that building. And every time I go there, the activity we get, we never know whether it's going to be a child that's going to come forward and do something, or whether it's going to be one of the teachers that was formerly in the school, who taught there and obviously started the school up from scratch. So, you never know when you go into those buildings what sort of activity and what sort of spirit energies are going to come through. Some are residual. Sometimes, you'll find that in a lot of these buildings. But it's the intelligent responses that you get from intelligent spirit that really, gets my blood flowing, because I think it's amazing what they can do and how they can interact with you. That's the thing that ticks my boxes, and that's what keeps me in the paranormal, through the fascination of it,
Yeah, it's not always about school either, because you're going to school expecting to get the head teacher through and the children, whoever, and then you find somebody coming through who was actually on the land before the school.
Yes, that's very true.
You just don't know what you're expecting in this field, and that's what makes it so amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the good thing about this field as well, because obviously I'm an investigator, and some of the locations we've been, it's like spirits we've communicated with were there before anything was built.
Yes.
Yes. It's amazing.
So obviously it's sometimes it's hard as well to get through to that spirit, or get from that spirit, like why they were there, if they lived there, so
that's very true indeed. Definitely.
It is fantastic, though, if you can manage to get a name through, or get some sort of evidence that later after the event you can actually see it in the record book somewhere.
Yeah, because there's been a few times where it's like things have happened and we've looked on Google
yes.
and we're like, okay, so that happened, and it's good to obviously go back to that, because it's a part of research as well. Because I don't know if you both are the same with the abilities you've got, but I tend to not look at the history of locations before I go.
I never do. Myself personally, the history is not what, when I go into any location, whether it be on an event or whether it's a private investigation, whichever, I would never look up the history of the building. I'd rather go in blind and see what I can connect with myself on the night, and then see if I can get something to validate, that person who I've been connecting with. If there's anything documented in any archives to say that person existed, that's the sort of thing I would do. I wouldn't look at the history first and then expect to walk in and find that person's going to be standing there greeting me at the door. I'd rather not know, because you don't know, like Jacqueline said, you never know what person who's going to come forward. You don't know whether it's to do with the land or whether it was to do with the previous building. You really don't know who you're going to come into contact with. So I think no matter whether you do research it or not, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the ones that you're going to come into contact with when you do go in that location.
We sometimes find that spirits follow us around as well. There's one particular spirit who we've met in at least 3 locations. And you can have a conversation with him in one building and then go somewhere else and he appears again. Well, particularly in Nottingham as well, because it's a small area. So, we're probably going to see him again because we're popping to a location on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We'll probably bump into him again. We've had interesting conversation with him. Or, well, 1 or 2.
That's what we aim to do, though, isn't it? Like, we want intelligent responses.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually have a conversation with this spirit, because you need to go in and not be like, asking these most stupidest questions.
Absolutely.
You need to obviously treat them like they're still here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, because I think that's what really sometimes can make all the difference in what responses that you get. Because obviously, some locations, as you can imagine, the amount of investigators and teams that go into them day after day and day after day and ask the same sort of questions every single time. I always put myself in their position thinking, well, if I was spirit and that happened, would I want to keep responding to it? 9 times out of 10, you'd either walk out and leave them, or either that, or you just ignore them, because you think, well, here we go again, the same sort of questions time and time again. So I always try, like you say there, Sam, talk to them as they are, and once was a person, so I like to go in and have a conversation, and see what I can get in the way of responses. And often I find when you go in with that mindset to talk to them, and just go and have a generalised chit chat, so to speak, I think they all of a sudden think, oh, well, you're different, we'll talk to you, because you're asking different questions to the others that are asking, the same questions time and time again. And I think it's them little responses, to how you go in with that mindset, what you're going to ask and what you're going to do to engage a conversation. I think that makes all the difference in the responses that you get.
It's also the people as well who are like with you at the time. It's fantastic if you got like high energy people, but then if you get somebody who's really close-minded, it can actually cause an issue with the activity on the night.
Absolutely.
It can actually quite destroy it.
Yeah, because it's like, obviously, because they have no body, but it's like they can be still there for a reason as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And sometimes they're just happy being there. It's not that they want to leave. They're quite happy to stay where they are. The familiar surroundings to them. And it's not because they're grounded or, they don't want to go and go through to the spirit world. They're just happy to remain where they are and do what they're doing. So we found that as well, everyone's got sometimes a misconception, well, if a spirit's still in the building, there has to be a reason for it. Sometimes there isn't a reason, they're just happy being there,
It's their home, isn't it, in a way?
This is it, yeah, absolutely.
So can stay there as long as they want. It's brilliant.
Yeah, especially like if they've lived there. It's only like us, isn't it? We don't want to move from his family home because we love it, so...
Yeah, that's it.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And can I jump in here at the point? I also think sometimes that when they come across somebody that can hear them and speak to them, they get excited because they want to tell their story.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And that's why they come back to you time and time again, because they're so enthralled that somebody is actually able to connect to them and listen to their story. Particularly if they've loved the building. They want to share their experiences of their time and their love for that building. I think it's fantastic, and that's why they can tend to follow you a bit.
Yes, that's right. Very true indeed. As Jacqueline has said, we've had one particular spirit that's followed us from one location to another one and onto another separate location completely, and he's still come around us, which is great. And I think it's because of that, like you said, Kerry, the connection that we've made with this particular spirit. It's a case of, wow, you can still listen to me, you can still talk to me, and they just want to give you more and more, And the more that you're talking to them, the more you can find out, who this person was, why they were there, what were they doing, how old they were when they died, what century was it, and all the things that we, as paranormal investigators, are so curious to find out.
Did you find out, and sorry to interrupt, did you find any validating information about this person then?
We are still working on trying to see if we can, because it goes quite a way back. So he's actually in one location, but he's got a connection to another. And obviously both of them are within the Nottingham boundaries. So obviously what we're still doing is still talking and still trying to find out as much as we can, but obviously without overstepping the mark, because, we don't want to keep pushing him, because obviously if you do that, sometimes it can have the opposite effect. So, it's a case we have to do it on his terms. If he feels ready to tell us things, then that's all well and good. If he doesn't, and he doesn't want to talk about that side of things, then obviously we won't, So it's all about a respectful conversation, the way I see it. We respect him and he respects us. So, and it works pretty well.
Yeah. My initial conversation was actually with his daughter. So I went to this particular location, and the daughter was communicating to me, and it was backed up with other gadgets and things like that. So I basically found out the story, and she mentioned her mum and her dad. And then I sort of went on an event with Linda, which I was working at, and there's this gentleman hanging around, but the minute I entered the building, it just killed all the activity until 5 o'clock in the morning. When I asked this gentleman a random question, it turns out that he was the father of the girl I've linked with.
Oh, God.
So then I heard his story, and it's just like fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is basically turning into quite a case study for you.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that's quite unique as well with regards to the building, the actual person who owns it, he's actually quite into the paranormal, and obviously he's aware of this particular spirit that's within the building. And he's as much inquisitive as we are to find out more about him. And, it's great because we have access to the building. If, I get a free weekend and I say, well, is there any chance I can go in and have a talk with this chap again? Can I go into the building and spend a bit of time there with him and get to know a bit more? It's always open for me to be able to get access to the building, which is brilliant. It makes it so much easier, because often that's the problem. You go into one building and it takes ages before you can go back again and again and again, because obviously all the teams are booking it as well, which it's a juggling act trying to get a free slot of time to go in and give it about 12 hours or so in the building just on your own, and that's what we do. We're allowed to do that, which is really great. We're quite honoured to be able to have access to the location to continue with this study.
It is one of those things that a paranormal team is always after, though, isn't it? A
yes,
location
absolutely.
that you can get into on a regular basis, so you can build up a case file kind of
That's
scenario,
right.
not just of spiritual interaction, but also, data.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you find, in general, booking locations with prices? Because well-known teams go in, it pushes the prices up. How are you finding that in your area? Because, like you say, there's some really amazing locations that are well known on the paranormal field.
Yes. I think some are quite, quite good. The prices haven't gone up a vast amount, in the last couple of years. And then you get others that are at the other end of the spectrum that are really pricing themselves out. Some of them are just, you can't touch, especially small teams like ourselves. We keep our numbers down to, 16 guest maximum, so they get the experience, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. We're not in it for the money, we're in it to give them the experience that we have every time we go out investigating, show them how it's done, how you conduct it, what the equipment's about, what it does, what it doesn't do, and, you know, how to debunk things and look at it from a logical perspective, is not just with your mediumship head, but with your logical head as well. So, you know, because of all of those factors, we find it sometimes difficult to actually get into certain locations because of the cost. You know, it's just sad because, you know, it's not everyone that's got, you know, a massive team and who can do 30 or 40 guests a night. You know, we're not like that. So, you know, it's just a sad thing for us because we can't get into certain locations because they're so pricey. But, you know, we're fortunate that we do have some that are, you know, within price range. So it's not all doom and gloom. But, you know, it would be nicer if some of the bigger, well-known locations did a little bit more of a cheaper deal for the smaller groups. You know, it would make it so much more easier for us to get in. And it's still money in their pot. You know, they're still getting the money for the building to keep the upkeep of it and, you know, to keep it going itself. So
that's true. Sam?
Mm-hmm. So, ladies, what type of equipment do you use?
Do you want to answer that, Jacqueline?
Ideally, I like to use my own sensors anyway. But when you have guests, you kind of want to use other things. It depends on the experience of the guests as well, because we try and work around the people who come on our events. So if we get the experienced people, then, you know, they might want to use EVPs. So obviously, we've got voice recorders. We've got the pretty flashy lights. We've got the K2s. We've got the EDI as well, which is a fantastic little gadget. I love that one. I want to buy it myself. That's Linda's. That basically picks up different air temperature, pressure, and also if it's sitting on a table, if anyone taps that table, little lights will come on to show that there's been a movement. So, yeah, I love that particular piece of kit. But yeah, we just use a whole range, really. You know, you've got your table tipping. We just do whatever the guests want. We use the board as well if people want to use that. But yeah, we just want to, like, try anything, really, to get the spirit to interact, because different spirits want to use different devices.
Do you get any reluctance of any of your guests when you get the board out?
We have done on odd occasions, not many, I must admit. You know, obviously we always respect the guests' wishes. If they don't wish to go on a board, we never, you know, encourage them or say, well, give it a go. You know, but it's their prerogative. If they don't want to go on it, because obviously they've heard all sorts of things through looking at various programs on TV and everything, because there's demons going to come and attach to me and all the usual kerfuffle, as you well all know. But you know, we always try and say to them, you know, it is just a bit of wood at the end of the day with letters on it. You know, we always open up the boards before the guests arrive in the location. I always close them down as well at the same place. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I've never had any issues with any boards. They're purely just a communicational device that, you know, obviously spirits sometimes can use if they don't want to use anything that's a bit more modern. But, you know, we do have many guests that say, you know, I wouldn't want to touch that at all. I won't even stay in the room with it in some cases, you know, because they've got this misconception that something horrible is going to go home with them at the end of the night, you know, which is, you know, ridiculous, as we all well know, you know.
Yeah, those little demons, they hide around every corner, don't you know?
That's right. That, you know, this day and age, you know, 2019, and we're still hearing these stories, you know, it's crazy, absolutely.
So have you come across anything you would class as very negative on one of your investigations that you didn't feel you could handle?
I was going to say, myself personally, I don't think I have, to be fair. I've definitely come across some negative, really negative energies, but nothing, you know, that sinister that I couldn't handle it, you know. Luckily enough, touch wood, you know, I've managed to be able to get most of the spirits to communicate with me, which is half the battle, really, is trying to find out why they're there, you know. But, you know, I think the ones that I've had have just been really a bit sinister. But even the sinister ones eventually will back down and start opening up and having a conversation, you know. So, and we'll communicate and use some method to let us know, you know, that they're there. So, but myself personally, I haven't come across anything really, really negative that I haven't been able to handle, no. I don't know about you, Jacqueline. Have you had any experiences?
Not overly. We've dealt with things, obviously. You know, we've been to places where there are sort of more negative spirits around, but you sort it out, really. It's not a problem. And yeah, you do try and communicate, and they might just be like walking around as shadows in the distance, but if I want to communicate, they will.
Very true.
Yeah.
See, people are probably going to hate me for this comment or whatever, but personally, I do not believe in demons. The whole demon thing. I just think it's like negative spirits.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that one, Sam. I don't believe in them either because I haven't come across any. All I've come across is really bad people that done bad things in life. They're going to be obviously not very pleasant in death, and they're not going to be pleasant spirits to come back to either. So my conception is, it's just good and bad. And it's just like life. You get good and bad people, you're going to get good and bad spirits, but nothing like demons or borderline demons. I don't believe in any of that, at all.
Yeah, going back to the equipment side of things. Obviously, if you use the Ouija board, have you ever encountered spirits that cannot spell or use a different language?
We have encountered that many a time, especially in locations that are going back quite a long way, centuries. Obviously that board would not mean a thing to them because obviously the letters and the terminology of speaking the language would be totally different to what we know now. So often we have to use the simplest of methods, even if it means not once for yes and twice for no. Simplicity things, just to get some communication going. Often they're the only things you have to resort to because obviously language barriers, you're just not going to be able to break it, are you? If someone's talking to you in Latin and you don't understand it, you've got a problem, haven't you? Because you can't communicate back to them when you don't know what they're saying to you, so you just have to try and work with what you've got and hope that you can get some sort of acknowledgement that they're there,
Mm-hmm. Like I don't know if you ladies obviously felt that at Sage Paracon, because I'm not saying it's paranormal or anything like that. I was on the spirit board, and we had this spirit come through, and she was talking in like, what do they call it, Old English?
Oh yes.
And we were like, carry on, Jackie, go on.
My grandfather came through. When we did the spirit board section, my grandfather came through and Linda's father at the same time.
Sorry, was that a sage?
Yeah.
Yes, it was, yes. Yeah.
Quite amazing that. You just go on and then we both get relatives through, and Barry John was with us as well. So, yeah, that's really quite strange that, my relatives should be with Linda's, just coming through at the same time on the board.
Or maybe they weren't together. Maybe they were just like trying to muscle in on like, it's my relative. No, it's my relative.
I was going to say I've had actually an instance even in my own home where I've had Jacqueline's grandfather come through here, and I've also had her parents as well. So and my family have actually brought them here for me to communicate with them, my family in spirit, that is. So, it isn't always, a case of them, just trying to nuzzle in to just get the attention. I think it's just because they're around anyway, and they just like to know that, you want to know that they're there. Here's your evidence, so to speak, So it's just nice when it's not at your own home or at a location that you're familiar with, and it happens, off the cuff like it did at Sage. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, because Barry John was there as well, and I think he was a bit amused that our family came through. Yeah,
yes, he was.
We go all that way, and then, relatives, great.
So what did you make of your Sage experience?
I quite enjoyed it. It was absolutely amazing. I thought it was great that we could investigate with, the likes of Chris Fleming and Barry Guy. And to name a few, I think the whole experience was completely fantastic. I really applaud MJ for what she puts together on these events, and the hard work she puts into it, because I wouldn't even know where to start, trying to put that together, because she does it all on her own, so I think it's absolutely amazing what she does, and I applaud her for it.
It's hard enough getting a paranormal investigation going.
Absolutely, definitely. Absolutely, I agree with that, Kerry, definitely.
This is why she does it on her own.
That's it.
Everyone there was so positive, and everyone got on with each other.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're all on these different TV shows, everyone got on. They had a laugh. They worked together. There weren't any massive egos or anything. It's just fantastic. Really enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, I have to say, because obviously, we did the radio links for them last year. That was one thing that everybody was saying. They can't believe how non-ego it was, what a fun weekend it was, and they're just like normal people that doing the same thing that we all do with the same passions, and that they'd had like the weirdest conversations with somebody they'd watched on TV, and it was like, I can't believe I just had that conversation with Katrina Wildman, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And everybody was saying it who we spoke to over the weekend, and even the and I'm air quoting, celebrities were saying the same thing, how great it was to connect to people out there in the field, who are doing what they do for as a hobby, effectively, and getting the inspiration from what they do. I just felt, because I wasn't there, I was doing it remotely. Even I got that vibe just from talking to people. So it's a fantastic thing. Paranormal conventions are fantastic melting pots for people, aren't they? Did you come away with any ideas that you now incorporate into your own events?
With the board.
Yeah, definitely. I could say we had a very interesting experience with the Ouija board with Karen Dolman, who was there from the Historical Board Society. I don't know if you want to take over, Jacqueline, and explain how we ended up using the board and how we use it now.
Yeah, well, we've used the board time and time again, and we just stand there, plonk a finger on it, and nothing happens. And then generally, like time and time again, if something does happen, it's because someone else is pushing it and it's blatantly obvious. Because we were sitting there at Paracon, nothing was happening. Karen came over and said, well, actually, you guide it. So you kind of just guide it along, and then Spirit takes it to the relevant letters and spells it. So we sort of tried that, and we actually tried it with blindfold on Saturday as well. But it seemed that person couldn't spell very well. But yeah, it's an interesting experience, an interesting way of using it.
And the method we used worked, which was amazing, because up to that point, we never had anything really ever come through. When we've used the board, just myself, Jacqueline, and perhaps another investigator, we've never had anything happen where it's moved or done anything, or that felt any vibration even from the planchette, that there was any energy on the board itself. But this way it seemed to completely change how the planchette would glide. It was almost as if someone was lifting it off the board and just moving it. It was unbelievable.
Right.
And it is amazing, and we felt the energy from it as well, which was even great, because that's something I think often, as I say, when we've done it before, we've never felt. So it just made it feel like there was definitely something moving that planchette, and we knew it wasn't us, so that was really, really good experience.
Which is great, because you took something away from working with somebody who works with them all the time.
Absolutely,
She's quite an
yes.
expert, isn't she, Karen?
Absolutely, she is. I mean, she knows so much about, how to use the Ouija board, and how, to get the right way of the energies going and flowing to help the spirit to manoeuvre the planchette. It's just amazing. The amount of, knowledge this lady has is incredible.
Sam?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, because I don't know if you guys are the same, but for me to use a Ouija board, I have to completely trust that person on the Ouija board.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Absolutely.
Because obviously they can move it now, but obviously because I've been in this industry a few years now, I've started to notice when people are faking it, because obviously you can see the fingers moving and that.
Yeah. Absolutely, this is it. And too often, you do get the odd person that doesn't even realise they're doing it. Subconsciously they're moving it.
Well, I just walk away half the time, and like a lot of events, I do try and avoid the board or table tipping because you see it so often where things get pushed, and it's just a complete waste of time. You just want things to be done correctly.
Yeah, that's the same as me. Like that, I used to go on it loads, but like I say, I just have to trust you are mum with it now. So
that's it, absolutely.
So moving on, guys, have you had any scary experiences during an investigation?
Myself, I think I've only had the one that I can recall. And I think it was more, not so scary. Well, it was at the time, but it was more taken aback, really, of where I found myself. And that was it happened at the location at the village in Mansfield, believe it or not. I was in one of the areas which is quite active. And we were there with a small group of people, obviously people that we've known for quite a while. And we were just obviously calling out, as you do, because it was a private investigation. And we were just sort of like, thinking, nothing's happening, we're going to go, because it just seems too quiet. And unbeknownst to us, obviously, we'd sensed that there was something lingering around somewhere in the background, but wasn't quite wanting to come forward and make themselves known. So we thought, well, obviously, we've given you enough time to make your presence known. You're not really wanting to play ball, so we'll move on to a different location, different area in the building. We were just about literally to go out the room when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we heard this massive pounding of boot footsteps, literally outside the doorway. And bearing in mind, this doorway was the only way out of there as well. So you can imagine, I'm like, oh my God, that has got to be somebody walking out there, because even I was taken back by surprise, because normally, I'd know who it was. But this person had completely blocked me, so I couldn't pick up his presence being there. And that was the scariest thing, because obviously, when you can't pick up on someone there and yet they are there and they're making themselves pretty much known that they're there, that's a scary concept for a medium or anyone that's psychic or sensitive, because you think, hold on a minute, how is it I'm not picking this person up, But that was the one thing that really, really threw me, and it's the only one time it's ever happened. So I'm hoping I won't get a repeat performance when I go there again in February when I see Chris Conway. So but that was the only one thing that really threw me, was that particular incident.
I like as I said earlier, I was a skeptic. I did development, and one or two things happened in development. I thought, yeah, possibly. But then I went to Matlock Pavilion, and it was actually run by Phil Newton and Patricia Ann Farrar from the famous Chardonnay Ghost Walks. And for some reason, I think somebody had cancelled, so they invited all these people who were like strong, like with mediumship or very experienced. So I turned up like on my own at this event, and I was really out my league, and like I was picking up like things everywhere, people's emotions and stuff, which I'd never done before. But then we did this circle right near the stage, calling out and stuff, and I felt like I wanted to get down on my knees. So I sort of said to these strangers at the time, I want to get down on my knees, and they go, oh, go on then. And this little girl jumped in. So basically, it like pushed me out the way. My head was aware that I was there, and I was doing the okey-cokey in a circle. So I had to get on and influence people. There I am at an event doing the okey-cokey, laughing forever. It's fantastic, isn't it? And yeah, I was laughing my head off like a hyena. My brain was going to my mouth to say, get it out. And I was trying to focus my head to get my mouth to say, get it out of me. And I was with all these basic strangers. And it's like, well, that night is like really, it was about like 1:30 a.m. And we're leaving at 2. So I went downstairs. I was still jaded. Like I got in my car. I thought, oh no, I don't want to bring it home with me. I drove home, and like I left the light on till daylight, wouldn't sleep. I was never going to do it again. And then decided to do it every week, so I love it.
And you've not had an experience like that again?
Matlock Pavilion, I saw a dark shadow, and there's a bit of darker entity who like resides about stage area. Once he got a face appear, and that it made me scream. I occasionally let a scream go. I can't help it. I haven't done it that frequently, but yeah. And it's usually if something is like really close, like at the village again. I got a great big shadow, and it's like right next door to me. It's there, right, a massive black shadow, and I screamed, and then it set on the REM pod. So people go into your imagination, but then I think whatever it was actually ran into the REM pod. Because of my scream.
You scared it.
I was going to say, she probably frightened him.
It was like, oh no, what's going on?
At least the REM pod gives a bit of chance that something actually happened. I did see something.
Mr. Hutchinson is now with us. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Sorry about earlier.
So how cold on a scale of 1 to 10 are you?
I am absolutely freezing my whatsits up.
So have you been able to listen so far?
Well, because of no power, I've had very little battery because of being at work, and so I've sort of jumped on because I wanted to save my battery. And then about 5 minutes ago, everything just turned on in the house. Oh, wow. So I'm like, great. I took my sweatshirt off, my jacket off, and heating's on full blast. And
dear.
So I'm back on.
So what did you want to ask the ladies, Carl?
I don't know what's been covered, so I don't want to repeat myself. So.
Wow, ask and we shall find out.
Well, the research that I was doing before I couldn't get on the show, was obviously the major thing that I had was it's like a family paranormal group.
Yes, well, originally that's how it was started. It was myself, Jordan, and also my daughter Kelly. We were the ones that started the group going initially. Kelly then started university, so obviously the hours she was putting into doing her course, it meant that obviously she couldn't commit to coming out on doing different investigations. So obviously it meant that she had to unfortunately leave the group, and it just left myself and Jordan continuing to do what we were doing. And then obviously recently Jordan again has had to unfortunately go off the path of the paranormal at the moment, because obviously his other commitments have clashed with it. And obviously, life as it is, you have to sometimes go with the times and move with the flow, so to speak. So unfortunately, he's had to leave the paranormal field for the time being, because it's impossible for him to be able to keep the two things going. So it's just left myself, and then obviously Jacqueline actually joined the team last year, and recently we've had Daniel Hopkins, who's joined us as well. So that we're a team of 3 at the moment.
When it was part of like the family group scenario,
yes,
that obviously there's obviously the trust, and obviously somebody's got your back in certain situations when you're doing this sort of stuff. So did that help you build your own confidence in doing what you do?
Yes, it did. Obviously, like you say, when you're working within a family, you obviously, you put your trust in those people because you know them, obviously, and you know how each other work, and how each one of you have got a role to play within the actual group and the team. And obviously at that point we were only doing our own investigations. We were going out collecting evidence, we were taking recordings, we were filming. We weren't doing what we're doing now, which is more public events rather than the other side of it. We try to do both, but it's not always easy. But we did pretty much gel together, because each one of us knew which role each one was having within each of the times when we were going out to these locations. So, no one had to sit down and say, right, well, you do this, this and this. We all knew what our roles were, and we all got on pretty well with doing them. And because of that, we worked pretty well to get what evidence we got, so it worked really well. But on the family theme of it, obviously we've known Jacqueline for quite a while. And obviously, Jacqueline to me is like family, you know, because we've known each other for a long time. We obviously very much in trust with each other, and obviously Daniel again as somebody I've known and worked with, you know, on numerous occasions before he became part of the team. And again, I trust implicitly with Daniel because he is a very good medium, and you know he has my back, and like we all worked pretty much together, and we all have each other's back. So, albeit it's not a family of Brookses, it is a family still, all the same, you know.
I think that's very important because from a personal point of view, you when you work closely with somebody or a group of people for a long period of time, you do build that. You call them family when
yes.
They may not be blood, but they're still family.
Absolutely,
and there's that whole trust, and I think that's a great ethos to have in a team because you in certain situations when you're doing this sort of stuff, you need somebody that can tell by a mannerism, a funny look in their face or whatever, that they might need a bit of support now and again.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that completely, you know, and that's why I like to keep my team, if I can, a relatively small one because of that uniqueness, like you say. I mean, it is like a little family. Each other knows, you know, if one's feeling a bit down, the other one's there to help them through it, you know, whatever the case may be. We all talk to each other regularly, and I think that builds up the rapport that we have, you know. So I think it is very important to have that as a foundation within the team, definitely.
Oh, yeah, it's just great to have the chemistry, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And we work pretty well together, don't we, as well? You know, we find that we bounce off each other a lot of the time as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the most important things is the what we do out there in the field, whether it's public, whether it's private, whatever you're doing. It can be at certain times very, very mundane, can be very boring because you can miss a lot of time. So you need that ability to pick up people's spirits up in certain times, and having a bit of a laugh, having a bit of banter between you helps you build that energy when it's sort of dipping at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
That's right, absolutely.
You need that sudden little bit of a boost if it's a one-liner or it's a little bit of a in-house joke. It just brings that energy back up again, doesn't it?
It does indeed, and it does work as well. You know, often we find if we're starting to flag, we think, well, if we are, then obviously the spirits are likely to be as well. And often, like you say, it's just having to have a bit of time, get your paranormal head off for a few minutes, and just have a little bit of a laugh and a giggle, and you know, just have a little bit of banter, you know, between you, and then all of a sudden, you know, you seem to get your second wind back, and all of a sudden the energy levels rise within the place, and before you know it, you've got something happening. You know, it's almost like an awakening sort of thing, you know, definitely, and it does work.
Yeah, I quite agree. It's like you say, it's that second wind that every paranormal investigator, whether they're part of a public events team or do private cases, you need at some point to be able to dig deep and get that second wind happening.
Absolutely.
I think humour, banter, and all that sort of stuff helps build it so much.
It does indeed. I mean, we've been, myself and Jacqueline and a couple of close friends have been in a cave in the Salutation Inn in Nottingham, like at about 3 a.m, and we're down there in the cave and we're just singing karaoke. It's crazy, but you know, this is what you do. You know, just to be able to, you know, re-energize the energies around you and re-energize yourself too to carry on.
And sometimes I think it also helps with the activity.
It does.
All of a sudden you've gone from having very, very a dip in it, and then all of a sudden you're having that little bit of banter, that little bit energy boost, and it brings the energy levels up, so which helps the activity happen again.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes the spirits are like being ignored. So because you're like having a laugh, having a chat, they think, oh, look at me. So they're like, might do something to get your attention. So yeah.
Have you discussed previously? Because obviously I've not been able to hear, but have you discussed anything? Have you got any scenarios where that's actually happened in the field when you've had to get your second wind and you've had some activity happen?
Yes, as I say, I mentioned the Salutation Inn in Nottingham when we were at a dip at 3 a.m, we'd sort of like exhausted every avenue to try and get that little last bit of evidential evidence, because at the time we were filming the investigation. And as I say, we were sort of like all feeling really, really tired. It was an awful night out. It was raining. It was extremely cold. And obviously we got to the point where we're like, can we carry on? Is there any point in carrying on? Because obviously the building's just gone so quiet. And then we thought, well, actually, no, we'll give it a little bit more of a push. We'll have a little sing-song. And we were down there singing Venga Boys. I think it was at the time, wasn't it, Jacqueline?
Yeah, it was.
And looking back at the filming of it, I think people must think we're absolutely crazy, Looney Tunes. Who'd want to be singing in a cave at 3 a.m, for heaven's sake? But we do it, So and after we had that little sing-song, it was only after then, within about 10 minutes of it happening, that we actually got activity captured on film, where we were throwing marbles and we were getting the marbles thrown back.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and we were the only ones down there. The only other person in the building at that time of the night was the caretaker or the landlord, and they live in the premises above where the actual pub is. So obviously they're in private living quarters, which was obviously 2 floors above where we were.
Yeah,
so
and you would have certainly noticed somebody else throwing the marbles back at you.
We would have done, because the only entrance into that part of the cave where we had a little alcove of the cave. We had 2 steps up from that, and to the left of it was the whole staircase from the bottom of the cave all the way up to the next floor. So that was the only entrance point and the only exit point. So obviously we were sat right next to it, so we knew no one had come down that stairway. And and the rest of the area of the cave going back into it was completely empty. There was no one in there, and it was completely pitch black dark. So, to get that, and it weren't just a case of it happened once, it happened several times. We'd throw it and it'd come back, throw it again and it would come back. We'd never find it, but we'd hear it come back. Yeah. So it was amazing.
No, that's cool. That's really good. I'd like at some point. I'd love to see the footage of that, just because obviously you can, in particular when you're in a cave or underground, you can the echoes of things moving.
Yes, absolutely.
is more pronounced on video because you can hear it.
So guys, ladies, what type of mediums are you?
Do you want to answer first, Jacqueline?
I'm not a medium. I'm just a developer. I don't know what I am. I pick things up. I sometimes get images, but I don't know. It's all new to me. I was a skeptic. About 3.5 years ago, I went down the development route, and I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I just keep getting shown things. I don't know what, it's just one of them, isn't it? It's interesting.
From my point of view, as I say, I've had the gift of being able to see spirit, hear spirit, and sense spirit from a very early age, from the age of 7 when I first had my first experience. So, and obviously since then, it's just been, continual. Even now, when I'm in my own home, I sense spirit and I see them with my own eyes. And actually, I hear them talk to me. It's just incredible because, to get so many things all happen at the same time, I think is quite unique, because a lot of people say, well, they're either clairsentients or, they pick up spiritual energies, or, they see shadows rather than apparitions and things like that. So everyone's unique and everyone's different with what ability that they have. And I do believe everyone has got the ability to do it. It's just a case of, once you've when you're a child, you probably see these things and have imaginary friends. And then, obviously, as you grow up, the imaginary friend disappears. So obviously your ability changes, you shut it down. So, I think everyone has the gift. It's just a case of some have the ability to use it and others don't, so.
Yeah, I sort of describe it as everybody can draw, but it depends on how well you can draw.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Over time.
Yes,
going through it. So I think like you say, everybody has the ability. It's how they progress and how they learn and how they improve on it from there.
Mm-hmm. So guys, what would be your top location to investigate and why?
Do you want to go first, Jacqueline?
Can it just be one? Oh, more than one.
It can be multiple, but you have to give a reason for each location.
I know, I've been here all
Could be
night.
here a long time. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's start off at Matt Lot for you then. You know, me going to this location as a skeptic, for some reason, I don't know why, I was picking up all the characters in the room. Patricia, who we know, and, you know, we do a few things with her. She was doing trance, and I was actually picking up the spirit while she was doing the trance. So I was getting the same emotions through as the trance was happening, which was amazing. And I've never really done mediumship sort of stuff to that degree before. I was picking up like women who had lost their children, and then of course, you know, I had that issue at the end. Yeah. Yeah, I do love Matlock, and you know, every time I've been there's been a lot of activity. So yeah, that's my favourite. And Robin Hood.
That was just going to bring me to my favourite location. You just mentioned it, Jacqueline. The Robin Hood experience for me has got to be one of my absolute favourites. And I think purely because of the fact, you know, the building's quite small. It's not a massive building. You know, you've got about 3 floors and 2 rooms off each one. So it's not a massive, huge location. But I think what you get from the location itself, each time I go, as I say, it's always something different. And I think the more I go into it, the more I come away, the more I want to keep going back. You know, it's that connection or bond, you know, it's a fabulous location. And I think the fact that I've also got the access to it as well, which makes it even more of an enticement to keep wanting to, you know, to learn more from the spirits that are there, you know. What's the reasons for it? Who are they? What are they doing there? Is there anything they want to say? You know, and it's not just about them. I also find out lots to do with how they look at us. You know, can they hear us? Can they see us? You know, how does it feel when they touch us? You know, ask them from their perspective, not just always from our own. And I find it quite incredible sometimes the answers I do get. You know. So, yeah, but that's one of my absolute favourites. And one that I would like to do, well, there's 2, Woodchester Mansion, and that speaks for itself why I would like to do that location, and Margam Castle. They're both they're on my to-do list, definitely. I'd love to do both of them because they look fabulous.
Both,
the history.
Both are incredible locations.
Yes, I would love to do those.
I'd like to go to Chillingham.
Chillingham Castle, yeah.
Yep.
I actually made it. I drove there, but I got a dog in a car. So to leave him on the main road, main country lane, and then just like nipped up the drive, and that was about as far as I got towards it. And churchyard was good though. Church next door. Yeah.
Chillingham's an interesting location. The person that runs it is a very, very eccentric character.
Right, guys, with that said, we have come to the end of the show. That hour has gone pretty quick. I want to thank Linda and Jackie for coming on, guys. It is muchly appreciated.
Thank you indeed for having us.
And obviously, thank you everybody in the chat room who has sent us questions. And you will be able to join us next week, guys, when we are joined by Saz Lockley and Aaron Lockley, who own a haunted tattoo studio.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.